Euromaxx Highlights. And here's your host, Megan Lee.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Highlights edition with the best picks of the week. Here's a look at what's coming up. Trash transformation. A British artist makes sculptures from scrap materials. Popular pastime. Ballroom dancing is seeing a revival. And design dilemma. Star architect Matteo Thun wants his creations to speak for themselves. Now, anyone who saw Woody Allen's delightful film Vicky Cristina Barcelona might already have fallen under the spell of the Catalan capital in northeastern Spain. Barcelona is blessed with an incredible location with the Pyrenees Mountains on the one side and the Mediterranean Sea on the other. Well, most people there speak two languages, Spanish and Catalan, giving Barcelona an extra layer of cultural richness.
It's impressively diverse. Both Catalonian and cosmopolitan, Barcelona is a city with heaps to offer, according to Alba Vendrell. That's partly because of its location between the mountains and the sea. The writer and blogger knows almost every corner of the city and lots about its history.
Thanks to the sea, Barcelona is connected via trading routes across the Mediterranean with the rest of Europe. It's the sea that made Barcelona into a city.
To get an impression of the size of the city, we head for Montjuic, the hill that overlooks Barcelona.
From here we can see the entire city, including the Sagrada Familia, which will be the highest building in Barcelona one day. 8 spires have been completed up till now.
Another 10 still have to be built. You can take a cable car up to the top of the 184-meter-high hill. The Joan Miró Foundation was set up here on Montjuic in 1975 during the artist's lifetime. Miró was keen to create a museum for his works in a place that had inspired him.
On Montjuic, Miró did not have as much of a connection to nature as in his summer house. But this is a place that is still close to nature. And nature is a constant reference point in Miró's oeuvre.
Barcelona has a wonderful natural setting. Alba Vendrell is keen to show off what she likes most about her home city in her blog, La Barcelona que me gusta, or The Barcelona I Like.
The blog is mainly aimed at locals, and Barcelona identifies closely with both the mountains and the sea, so it's a good motto for the city. If we lose our way, for example, we always get our bearings by considering whether we're on the side of the street facing the mountains or towards the sea.
Alba Vendrell's favorite church is located in the old fisherman's quarter of El Bon. Santa Maria del Mar was built in the 14th century in just 55 years by Berenguer de Montagut. The church is Catalonia's only entirely Gothic structure left standing. For Alba, it's a must-see on this tour.
The 2 figures at the doorway are the stonemasons who dragged the stones from Montjuic on their way back down the coast to build the church of Santa Maria del Mar.
Just around the corner is Yambet, a small restaurant dedicated to serving modern cuisine based on regional traditions. Mountains and sea, or surf and turf, is also a concept that's widespread in Catalan cuisine. Blood sausage combined with small squid is one example.
It's an idea that I got from top Catalan chefs. I like it because of the contrast and the interplay between the ingredients. Sometimes you might think that mixing seafood with meat would never work.
After a good meal, it's time to head for the next hill, past Antoni Gaudi's famous houses, Casa Batlló and Casa Milà, to one of Europe's most unusual architectural complexes, Recinte Modernista de Sant Pau. It was built in 1902 by Luis Domènech Montaner and declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997.
This place used to be called the Shaven Mountain because there was absolutely nothing here. This was where the architect built the hospital, one of the most innovative of its time. He built the site at 45 degrees to the city grid of the Eixample district, lending the complex a perfect north-south axis.
To round off the day, we hop on a historic tram to reach the city's highest point. The 520-meter-high Tibidabo. There can't be many amusement parks where the rides offer such spectacular views.
In Barcelona, you're always walking up or down. You could say it's built on 7 hills like Rome, well, more or less.
So, if you're off to Barcelona, remember to pack some comfortable shoes.
Some people might think hubcaps are just things that protect car wheels and at some point end up in a junkyard. But as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And that really applies to one British artist who has carved out a successful career for himself by recycling hubcaps and turning them into sculptures. Well, he calls them hubcap creatures, and we're about to show you why.
Hubcaps turned into works of art. Their traditional function may be to protect the wheels of a car, but for Ptolemy Elrington, the small discs are perfect for creating sculptures, especially of animals.
People think a hubcap is just a hubcap, but actually they're made out of lots of different types of plastic, so they're very versatile. We've got all the different shapes and things to play with. Basically, that's what I'm doing. I'm playing when I'm working.
The artist makes adjustments to the hubcaps in his studio. Having studied art and design in the 1980s, he now works for himself as a sculptor. He generally avoids using photographs, sketches, or templates as a basis for his work. Instead, he lets himself be guided by the form of the hubcaps themselves.
Sometimes I am surprised because there are some elements within the materials that I use that kind of take over and give it a certain character. And other times I'm surprised at quite how difficult it can be. Sometimes I can spend all day just working on one little thing and never quite getting it right and working it again and again and again. And I don't know why I know when it's right, but I just do, and then I'm happy.
Some creations can be completed in a day. Others he spends weeks on.
The thing about creating, whether you're painting or drawing or making sculpture, the most important thing is to be able to look properly. And it's about making your eye and your brain work together properly so that you can translate the shapes that you see in your mind into something more physical in front of you.
He's created hundreds of sculptures. A single piece fetches an average of €1,000. The price depends on the amount of time invested in the work. Some can cost up to €40,000.
I kind of stumbled on that as an idea because I used to live near a bend where they used to collect on the side of the road. And after a while I started picking them up because it just seemed such a waste. The council were coming along and collecting them and they were going into landfill. And some of them were really beautiful designs.
He still scours the streets for material to include in his artworks and continues to collect the hubcaps he finds on the way to his studio in Brighton. His collection is in the hundreds. He orders them according to brand, size, material, and shape. He also gets some as gifts from his friends and family.
That's a Seat one. That's got a little bit of bend to it, which is good. But the thing that first I'd notice with this would be this oval shape here and this shape here, because already to me that's looking like a shark's mouth. So if you spin it around, you've got this kind of shape going on.
He also incorporates old shopping trolleys and spare car parts into his pieces. Recycling is an integral part of his work.
I always try to include some kind of recycling aspect, just to try to get that message as part of what I do out there. I think the way that the world is at the moment, I'm never going to run out of raw materials, and I certainly don't think I'm going to run out of the drive to make things out of them. So in the future, I'm just going to keep on doing what I like doing.
Ptolemy Elrington is a master of breathing new life into old materials.
Well, it was once a part of almost every school curriculum. A social dance class where shy young boys had to ask even shyer girls to dance. Well, those classes have long died out, but today standard ballroom dancing is back in vogue. And one example of that is Europe's largest dance school in Freiburg in southwestern Germany.
It's gala time at the Ballhaus Freiburg. Standard dancing is back in fashion among all age groups.
It looks great and it's loads of fun. You can just lose yourself in the music with your partner. I think that's great.
You can completely switch off. That's what I like best. You enter into another world and you can get away from the craziness.
In the afternoon, there was an introductory workshop for people keen to polish their skills on the dance floor, starting with a slow waltz. Most people here knew the basic steps, but instructor Heiko Kleibrink made sure they were absolutely precise.
Zelebriert den Walzer. Hoch ins Knie. 1. Hoch ins Knie.
Kleibrink, an 8-time German champion in standard dance, showed them how it's done.
Everyone in the world can dance. No matter which culture you look at, the youngest kids dance whenever they hear music. They just can't keep still. Most adults were taught to sit still in school or at their jobs. Dance school helps balance things out.
Dance classes are increasingly in demand, and not just in Freiburg. The courses are becoming more and more popular among single people. Couples dancing is a great way to meet others.
You'll have a group of 30 or 40 people. Men and women meet and make friends. We've had a number of weddings because people get to know one another in relaxed surroundings.
In the old days, knowing how to waltz, tango, or do the cha-cha was a social necessity. People learned how to dance in school. For many, they first really encountered the opposite sex while dancing. But it was all very ritualized.
The sexes were strictly separated at dance schools. There were benches along opposite walls. Girls sat on one side, boys on the other. The boys had to ask the girls for a dance. It was all very formal.
With the disco era, dancing became more individual. Formalized dance steps went out of fashion. That's still true today. Whether they're pogoing to punk or swaying to club music, most people nowadays prefer to dance by themselves. At the same time, more traditional dances have made something of a comeback. People at this tango evening in Berlin aren't trying to be retro, they're just having fun. And 1930s swing is also enjoying a revival. Every year, the Swedish town of Harang hosts Europe's biggest Lindy Hop festival. And electro swing has made its way from London across Europe. Here, old-time dance steps meet electronic beats. Back in Freiburg, the ball is in full swing. The event will continue well into the night. But there's only one way to learn how to trip the light fantastic like the professionals: practice, practice, practice.
Eat like a Viking is a slogan that has taken off over the past few years for people who want a healthier diet and lifestyle. Well, this consists of eating simply and going back to the roots, so to speak. Well, new Nordic cuisine, as it's called, combines local ingredients with traditional food prepared in new ways. Well, it's extremely popular in Denmark, so we went there to try it out.
In winter, temperatures in Copenhagen can get rather chilly. Trying to live on only local produce doesn't sound very tempting. But that's just what the devotees of the new Nordic cuisine do. The radio restaurant exclusively uses regional ingredients.
So this is one of my favorite vegetables, celiac, that we can bake or fry or even serve raw. Shoots of ramson, or wild garlic as it is called. And then you've got black cabbage. It's a kind of creating a dishes, a food that reflects nature where you are. The Spanish cuisine that was dominating in the early 2000s was extremely technical and getting further and further away from everything natural. So we said now it's time to come back to nature.
Chefs from around the world are drawing inspiration from the new Nordic cuisine. Lifestyle magazines in Britain and the United States are singing the praises of what they call the Viking diet. It's a trend, but will it last? It actually began in 2003 in a restaurant called Noma, which was started by Klaus Meyer and René Redzepi.
The way they did that just completely changed everything we knew about restaurants. They were serving plates that looked like forest floors and beaches in the north of Denmark and so on. And it was made of the produce that they could find in our close surroundings.
New Nordic cuisine has turned into a gold mine for Klaus Meyer. Nowadays, he runs several restaurants and a large number of staff cafeterias around Copenhagen. His delis specialize in regional produce from their own farms. And his name has turned into a trademark.
I mean, we never meant for this phenomenon, the new Nordic cuisine, to be reserved for a culinary elite. What we dreamt of was that this should come into the hands and lives of as many people as possible.
Food blogger Mia Irena Christensen has also taken up the cause. She tries to put the ideas into practice in her daily meals and organizes cooking courses in her home. It's a new twist on a centuries-old tradition of following the seasons.
The beetroot has really, gotten modern again, and also some of the other old school, root vegetables like parsnip and what's the other one? Parsley root and all the cabbages. When the Danes are eating so much cabbage now, it's all about knowing how to prepare it and maybe not use the traditional method like beetroots we used to, make soup of, or we used to pickle it. But when you use it raw, it's just a completely different experience.
The trend has picked up support from a Danish study that suggests new Nordic cuisine is healthy and promotes weight loss. Cabbage and root vegetables are complemented by legume, berries, whole grain foods and fish, and by meat only sparingly and never from factory farming. Traditional pickling, stewing and preserving are seeing a revival.
This is the finished pork cheeks. You braise it for about 45 to 1.5 hours, depending on how you do it. So in a few hours you have a lovely pot dish, and it's a cut that we kind of forgotten about. They went from being something you could almost get free at the butchers because nobody wanted it, until now you need to pay a lot of money for them.
The return to traditional natural ingredients is nothing new. Industrially processed foods are also frowned on by the raw food diet, clean eating, slow food and others. But none are as extreme as the Paleolithic diet, whose disciples try to eat like their Stone Age ancestors. There are even Paleolithic-style restaurants.
We cannot get this simplicity in our daily work life or in our relationships, in the society that surrounds us. That is incredibly demanding, then we could probably seek that simplicity in our own kitchen.
Many trends have turned out to be flashes in the pan, but not the new Nordic cuisine. Its popularity has only grown, even as standard family fare, a trend that seems to have conquered the hearts of foodies everywhere.
Matteo Thun is one of the most sought-after architects in the world. He's a winner of countless awards, and he can design anything from bottles to buildings, and yet he rejects any kind of hype around his person. And he firmly refuses to sign his name to any of his works, which include watches for big names like Bulgarian Swatch, as well as glasses for liqueur maker Campari, and the list goes on. Well, Euromaxx caught up with the Italian designer in his studio in Milan.
From the huge to the tiny, from cups to hotels, from office complexes to cutlery. Matteo Thun has designed just about everything and won countless awards for his work. But most of his products don't bear his name. The South Tyrolean architect likes to remain anonymous. Take these water bottles, for example.
This is an example of no design. Nobody will ever know that the bottles are by us.
Matteo Thun and his team work in the Italian city of Milan. Many on his staff are young. But Thun himself has been in the business for about 4 decades. A recently published photo book documents his work. It includes 20 tiny houses known as wineries, built for a vineyard on the Mosel River. Made of locally mined slate, they were awarded the German Wine Architecture Prize in 2013.
The idea was to use the smallest possible measure, smaller than the surrounding apple trees, for many tiny houses. For example, you see here the interior is like a monk's cell. You enjoy the wine, eat very well, and then you sleep in this tiny room.
Thun has created some design classics, like these espresso cups. Or this oil and vinegar set that he designed in 1978 for Milan architect Ettore Sozzas. In the 1980s, he was a co-founder of the design group Memphis, as a reaction to the soulless modernist doctrine of form and function. Matteo Thun has had his own studio since 1984. He doesn't see himself as an artist or a designer. He wants to be called an architect. He doesn't think much of personality cults.
This ghastly term, star designer or star architect. Today, every hairdresser is a star. It's better to focus on the little bit that you can do.
Thun starts every project with a watercolor drawing. His latest project, vases made of Murano glass. He created this knife for a German company with his partner Antonio Rodriguez.
This shape is archetype. Yeah. You cannot say this is designed by somebody. It's designed by the fingers, it's designed by the man who has to cut.
These days, Matteo Thun focuses mainly on large buildings. The Side Hotel in Hamburg, a collaboration with artist Robert Wilson, was named Hotel of the Year in 2001. His Vigilius Mountain Resort in South Tyrol has also won several awards. Thun says everything should be cast in one mold. That's why his team designs everything, from the walls to the spa.
To understand the soul of a place means the surroundings, the microclimate, the wind, what direction the rain comes from, where does the sun set, where does the sun rise. An architect has to understand all of that, and then the architecture creates itself.
Like in this commercial complex built in 2009. It's Milan's first building with air conditioning run on geothermal energy. Environmental issues are important for Matteo Thun.
The life cycle of an object, whether it's a glass bottle or a house, has been the main focus for years, and we're trying to push the limits there. It's not about greenwashing, but about our firm commitment to sustainability.
It's an approach that reflects the spirit of the times and is in demand worldwide.
And with that, we wrap up another week of Euromaxx. I hope you enjoyed our special editions. Now, don't forget to go to our website if you want to see any of the reports again. And you can also friend us on Facebook. So from me and the rest of us here in Berlin, thanks as always for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.